Well, Mr. Baker, Al Baker, I'd like to welcome you on Sports Talk 1996 on YouTube with me, Zach Barnett, and get it rolling with how did you get involved with football as a kid?
I was really big, uh, insecure. No, I take that back. Let me tell the truth. I was fat. My brothers were all athletes, and I was the baby of the family. So I looked up to them as heroes. And then seventh grade or so, man, I as I was sharing with you, I mostly drew, and I had this horrific experience. The riots in Newark, and it was just I think I had a little bit of PTSD. And then finally, I started to mature. So I was growing this way. And then between seventh and eighth grade, something kicked in and I grew this way. And then I kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And then by the eighth grade, that summer, I was on my way to be a freshman. I loved basketball. I thought that was going to be my dream. And 1971, I was sitting down watching football as we knew it back then. There was only one game on Sunday. There was no Sunday night football. There was no Thursday night. And Monday night football had just gotten started and it hadn't caught on yet. And I was watching a guy by the name of Chuck Howley, the captain of the Dallas Cowboys defense, number 54, had his helmet under his left arm and his right hand on his heart. And they sang the national anthem. And he came out of that tunnel, and Zach, I'm not kidding you, my skin started crawling. I was 11 years old, and I was
Mm.
just, I was like, whoa, 11 going on 12ish, like that, and it just overwhelmed me. And I remember running outside afterwards, the game, and me and some friends were playing, and I was Chuck Howley. I mean, we were playing on the cement. I was throwing rolling body blocks, diving at people, and it affected me in such a way. Um, and then the rest of the story was, wow, big as you are, you ought to come out for football, as a freshman. So that's how I got started. Chuck Howley, and the fact that there wasn't a red zone or direct TV, it was like three channels. You know what I mean? You remember those? Well, you weren't old enough. You're not old enough, but
I've heard the stories, man.
yeah, that's all it was. That game was like when they said come over and watch the game, that meant it was a game on Sunday, and it was primarily just CBS. So that's how I got started. I got force fed football because it was the only game in town.
Definitely, man. So scrolling it forward for you, Al, from Colorado State to the NFL, what carried over to the NFL that they taught you at Colorado State?
Basketball. I played both sports, and I wanted to play basketball professionally. Got invited to camp. Didn't do so well because the guys I didn't realize, like in football, when you go from college to pros,
Yep.
the speed. The NBA skips a gear, right? And from college, where you play zones, right, in the Western Athletic Conference at Colorado State, we played a lot of zone, and you were standing in one spot. You play zone, and the speed and the going up against a guy my height 6'8" that weighed 190 can keep up with him. If I got him under the basket, I could move him around and do what big guys do that you see the big guys do later in the game. But um, when I got to camp after getting released, well, actually leaving Golden State, um, when I got to camp, a weird thing happened. I was superiorly conditioned. Superiorly. I just finished college basketball, went right into training for um, the draft. There was no combine, there was no ESPN, no show. You got a call, which I missed. Long story short, man, it was the basketball moves that made me different. I wasn't a big time weightlifter and I wasn't trying to run over some guy that weighed 300 pounds, but I became really efficient at running around him. And in the old days, there wasn't a guy down in the corner of the end zone like you see now with a yellow glove on, which means timeout. When a guy got tired back in the 70s, he was tired. There was no 2 minute drill. I mean, the 2 minute drill was literally 2 minutes nonstop. So all the heavy guys, their nose was running, had their hands on their hip, they were bent over. And me, I was kind of like the Muhammad Ali of football. I wasn't going to bend over. I wasn't going to let them see me sweat. And once I saw a guy like that and his eyes got all bloodshot red, I showed them the kitchen sink. And they just collapsed because they were tired. Now they stop the game and stop the game and stop the game. And so you can't take advantage now, like I did back then, but it was a different game. It was a different game. So I excelled at that part of it, even though there were bigger, stronger, faster guys. I just believed I could, and I knew that I wasn't going to get tired. That was everything for me. Don't get tired. And I didn't.